This is my first video on this new channel that I'm creating, which is basically just going to be a book club. And what I'll do is I'll talk about the books that I'm reading or I've read before and kind of share my insight on them, what I've learned from them, how it relates to life. Maybe not just for myself, but maybe for something that can relate to everybody in modern times. So, if that makes sense. So, the first book that I wanted to bring up is something I just finished recently, and it had a really profound effect on kind of how I navigate the world of my subconscious mind using my conscious mind as well. So, it's kind of, well, the book, we'll start with that. This is the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And basically, each of these is an archetype, which you could think of that as kind of like a universal symbolic representation of personality traits. And the idea, this kind of stems from, I don't know if the idea of archetypes in our personalities originated from Carl Jung, who's like a very famous psychologist. I don't know if it originated from him, these ideas, but I do know that at least these archetypes in particular, and others as well, he talks about in a lot of his books. So Carl Jung in particular, he's very, like, he believes that the subconscious is very tied to this universal consciousness that breaks the typical fabric of matter, time, and space. It's very interesting. And there's a lot of science experiments to kind of back up why this theory is not so impossible. So it's definitely, if you do go down that route of exploring, I guess the truth behind archetypes and how they're universally applied to us, that would be worth looking into. Which it's weird to say this is my first video, but comment below if you want me to cite some of this stuff, which I doubt anybody's ever gonna. I don't know. Probably nobody ever watched this video, but whatever. Anyways, getting back to the book itself, kind of covering all the, I guess, archetypes briefly. Each one represents like different aspects of ourselves, and I think the coolest part is that each archetype also has undeveloped representations too, like, I guess, undeveloped archetypes. So like the warrior would be the mature one, where it's somebody who's completed that archetype in its finality, in a sense, whereas there's other ones below it, like the hero and the coward, which you can kind of get a sense of, what those are. Basically, the warrior is more strategic. They don't jump into the fray without, kind of knowing what's going on, whereas the hero is because it's the more immature archetype, it's willing to be more rash in that person's actions, and the coward is the coward who is afraid to take action in the first place. So really interesting, and I think what makes it really cool is not just knowing about the different archetypes and like the personalities they elicit if they're undeveloped, but and it took a while to get through it, but at the end of the book they actually talk about how to kind of navigate the realm of immature archetypes and kind of moving forward in that regard, talking with them per se. Very interesting. Might make you go nuts, or it might give you a lot more clarity. I guess it depends. It really depends. Depends on you. Yeah, and I guess that is it for for this video. I know it's what, like 6 minutes. Um, oh yeah, yeah. Hold on, before I end it, I guess I should talk about how this relates to current life. Yeah. Okay, so for me, there is some archetypes that I have that I've noticed that aren't developed, that are on the immature side. And as much as it sucks to kind of like admit that and see that, it's still liberating getting to the truth of the matter and then learning how to navigate and kind of deal with it. The technique that they do, or one of the techniques they talk about, is actually talking to these aspects of your subconscious, these archetypes. And this concept, you might be familiar with it if you've heard of shadow work and kind of dug into that. But it's looking at these parts of yourself, these immature parts of yourself, and your deep-rooted subconscious, and treating them like kind of like a different entity or different person, but still part of you. And instead of hating it or pushing it away, like instead of creating friction with that part of really yourself, you learn to converse and work together with it, because it's that part of you came about because of your life circumstances. And it's, I would say, not to get too deep into it, but it might cause some people to feel restricted if you fight that part of yourself. You know what I mean? If you push away that deep rooted aspect of yourself, you're essentially blocking your full potential. You're signaling to your subconscious that there's something about it that you don't appreciate or you don't want. And think about that for a moment. Like, do you know how powerful your subconscious is to restrict or push away a part of it? It's repressive. So imagine how liberating it is to learn how to bring that part of yourself together. And I think because it coincides with shadow work, I believe it's very similar. I think you also have to be very careful, because depending on what that part of yourself is, you have to learn about what acceptance and working together means. Like, you don't have to be a slave to that part of yourself and do as it bids you, right? However, you do want to understand where it's coming from and what you can do as, I would say, call yourself the negotiator, your conscious mind. You're the negotiator. What can you do to appease that side? What is it missing or lacking that's not going to, that's almost like a middle ground, I would say, that's not going to cause you too much trouble or real life consequences, if that makes sense. So think carefully and comment below if you have questions or want to discuss that. And now I will end the video.